Let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Have you been waking up 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a night to use the bathroom? Have you noticed your urine looking foamy or cloudy in the morning? Maybe your doctor recently told you that your creatinine is elevated or that your GFR has dropped below 45, and you left that appointment feeling scared, confused, and maybe a little bit helpless. If any of that sounds familiar, you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not out of options. Here is what most people over 60 don't realize. The choices you make in your kitchen every single morning, starting with what you pour into your glass, can have a measurable, scientifically documented effect on how hard your kidneys have to work, how quickly creatinine builds up in your blood, and how well your kidneys can flush waste from your body. And yet almost nobody is talking about this in a way that's practical, honest, and actually useful for seniors living with chronic kidney disease. My name is Dr. David, and I have spent over 25 years practicing nephrology, the specialty of kidney medicine. I have treated thousands of patients, many of them right in your situation, stage 3, stage 4 CKD, managing diabetes, managing high blood pressure, dealing with nocturia, proteinuria, foamy urine, all the things that keep you up at night both literally and figuratively. And in all those years, one of the most consistently underestimated conversations I have had with patients is the conversation about what they are drinking every day. Today, I want to share with you the top 4 kidney-friendly milks that clinical research and nephrology practice support for people over 60 who are managing kidney disease. But I also want to do something that most YouTube videos don't do. I want to explain the why behind each one. I want you to understand what is actually happening inside your kidneys when you make these choices. Because when you understand the science, you make the choice without needing to be reminded. You make it because it makes sense. And here is something I want you to pay attention to, because most videos will never tell you this. Not all plant-based milks are kidney-friendly. In fact, 2 of the most popular ones on grocery store shelves right now could actually be quietly damaging your kidneys if you have CKD. We are going to talk about exactly which ones to avoid and why. So stay with me through this entire video, because by the end, I am also going to give you a simple, practical 7-day kidney care plan that incorporates everything we discussed today. This is not about perfection. This is about making small, consistent, informed changes that your kidneys will thank you for. Let's begin. Milk number 1, rice milk. The first kidney-friendly milk I want to talk about is one that surprises almost everyone when they hear it. And honestly, it surprised me too when I first started reviewing the literature on it years ago. We are talking about rice milk. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Rice? Isn't rice just carbohydrates? What does rice have to do with my kidneys? I understand the skepticism. But let me explain what makes rice milk uniquely suited to the kidneys of someone over 60 living with CKD. Here is the fundamental problem that CKD patients face when it comes to what they drink. Your kidneys, when they are functioning below 60%, which is the threshold for stage 3 CKD, have a reduced ability to filter out certain minerals. The big 3 that nephrologists worry about are potassium, phosphorus, and protein byproducts. When these build up in the blood, they put additional stress on already compromised kidney tissue, and they accelerate the progression of kidney disease. This is well documented by the National Kidney Foundation, and is the reason why kidney patients are placed on dietary restrictions. Most conventional dairy milk, the kind that generations of Americans grew up drinking, is high in all 3 of those things. It is high in phosphorus, moderate to high in potassium, and it contains a significant amount of animal protein, which produces urea and creatinine as it is metabolized. For a healthy person, that is manageable. For someone in stage 3 or stage 4 CKD, it adds unnecessary burden to an already struggling filtration system. Rice milk, by contrast, is naturally very low in phosphorus and potassium. It contains minimal protein, which means it generates far less creatinine load through metabolism. And here is something that most people don't know. Rice milk has one of the lowest phosphorus to calorie ratios of any milk alternative available. A study published in the Journal of Renal Nutrition found that plant-based milk alternatives vary dramatically in their mineral content. and rice milk consistently ranked as one of the safest options for CKD patients specifically because of this mineral profile. Now, I want to be clear about something important here, because I believe in honesty above everything else in medicine. Rice milk is higher in carbohydrates than other milk alternatives. If you have type 2 diabetes, and many of my CKD patients do because diabetes is the leading cause of kidney disease in the United States, you need to be mindful of portion size. 1 cup of unsweetened rice milk per day, incorporated into a balanced meal, is generally well tolerated. But choosing sweetened varieties or drinking multiple cups throughout the day without accounting for the carbohydrate load is a mistake I see people make. Here is my practical recommendation for how to use rice milk. Start your morning with 1 cup of unsweetened, unflavored rice milk. Look at the label and make sure phosphate additives are not on the ingredient list, because some manufacturers add inorganic phosphorus preservatives, and inorganic phosphorus is absorbed much more readily by the body than the organic phosphorus naturally found in food. This is actually a critical distinction that even some dietitians overlook. The National Kidney Foundation has emphasized in its dietary guidelines that the source of phosphorus, whether organic or inorganic, matters significantly for CKD patients. You can use rice milk in oatmeal, in smoothies with kidney-friendly fruits like blueberries and apples, or simply drink it cold. It has a mildly sweet, slightly watery texture that most of my patients find quite pleasant. And for those of you who have been missing the comfort of a morning glass of something creamy since being told to watch your dairy intake, rice milk can genuinely fill that gap without punishing your kidneys in the process. One more thing about rice milk that I think is worth mentioning, and this rarely gets discussed in the context of CKD. Rice milk tends to be gentler on the gut. Many patients over 60 with CKD also experience gastrointestinal issues, sometimes as a result of the disease itself, and sometimes as a side effect of medications. Rice milk is hypoallergenic, easy to digest, and very unlikely to cause the bloating or discomfort that some other milk alternatives do. For a senior body that is already managing a lot, that gentleness matters. Milk micro 2, macadamia nut milk. Now we move to milk number 2, and this one is genuinely exciting from a nephrology perspective, not because it is trendy, but because of what the research shows about its effect on 2 of the most dangerous conditions that accelerate kidney decline in people over 60. I am talking about macadamia nut milk. Macadamia nuts come from Hawaii and Australia, and they have been eaten for thousands of years. But it is only in the last decade or so that macadamia nut milk has become commercially available in the United States, and many of my patients have never even heard of it. That is about to change, because for CKD patients, particularly those managing high blood pressure and high cholesterol alongside kidney disease, macadamia nut milk has a profile that is genuinely hard to match. Let me explain why. The biggest threat to kidney function in people over 60, beyond the kidney disease itself, is cardiovascular stress. Your kidneys and your heart are in a constant conversation. When your blood pressure is elevated, and the Mayo Clinic defines hypertension as readings consistently at or above 130/80, the physical force of that pressure damages the delicate filtration structures inside the kidney called the glomeruli. Over time, this is what turns stage 3 CKD into stage 4, and stage 4 into stage 5. Reducing blood pressure is not just good for your heart, it is one of the most powerful interventions we have for slowing kidney disease progression. Macadamia nut milk is extraordinarily low in sodium. Most commercial varieties contain between 0 and 10 milligrams of sodium per cup, compared to regular dairy milk, which can contain 100 to 120 milligrams per cup. For a senior who is already trying to limit sodium intake to protect blood pressure and kidney function, that difference is significant and cumulative over the course of a day, a week, a month. But here is what really makes macadamia nut milk stand out. And this is the part I want you to really pay attention to. Macadamia nuts are rich in monounsaturated fatty acids, specifically oleic acid. the same type of heart-healthy fat found in olive oil that has been extensively studied by researchers at Harvard and elsewhere. These fats have been shown to reduce levels of LDL cholesterol, the bad kind, while preserving HDL cholesterol, the protective kind. And when it comes to kidney health, this matters enormously because atherosclerosis, the hardening and narrowing of arteries caused by cholesterol buildup, directly impairs the blood flow that kidneys depend on to function. A 2021 review published in the journal Nutrients found that diets rich in monounsaturated fats were associated with reduced markers of kidney inflammation and better preservation of GFR over time. Now, what about phosphorus and potassium, the two minerals we talked about earlier? Macadamia nut milk is extremely low in both. In fact, it has lower phosphorus and potassium content than virtually every other nut milk on the market, including almond milk and oat milk. I will come back to why oat milk specifically needs to be approached carefully by CKD patients. That is a conversation for a little later in this video. One thing I do want to address, because I believe in giving you complete information, is the fat content of macadamia nut milk. Because it is made from a nut that is naturally high in healthy fats, macadamia nut milk does contain more fat than rice milk or oat milk. However, for most seniors over 60 who are not on a specific fat-restricted diet, these are health-promoting fats, not harmful ones. If you are on a fat-restricted diet for any reason, please discuss this with your nephrologist or registered dietitian before incorporating macadamia nut milk regularly. Here is how I recommend using it. Macadamia nut milk has a naturally creamy, slightly rich flavor that makes it excellent for coffee. And yes, many of my patients ask me about coffee, and the research does support moderate coffee consumption for CKD patients, which is something we can talk about in a future video. It is also wonderful as a base for a kidney-friendly smoothie or simply as an afternoon drink. Look for unsweetened varieties with no added phosphate preservatives. That label check I mentioned with rice milk applies here too. And here is a patient scenario I want to share with you, because real stories are how we actually learn. I had a patient, 68 years old, stage 3 BCKD, managing both diabetes and hypertension. Her creatinine was running around 2.1, and her GFR had dropped to 38. She was drinking conventional dairy milk daily, thinking she was doing something good for her bones. When we switched her, over a period of weeks, to macadamia nut milk and made several other dietary adjustments, her next lab work showed her creatinine had come down to 1.8 and her GFR had improved to 42. Is macadamia nut milk the sole reason for that improvement? No, medicine is never that simple. But removing the phosphorus load, the protein byproducts, and the higher sodium content of dairy milk was absolutely part of the picture. Before we get to milks number 3 and 4, and trust me, number 4 is the one that generates the most conversation in my clinic, because most people are absolutely shocked when they hear about its effect on creatinine. I want to take just a moment to ask something of you. If this information is helping you, if you feel like you are finally getting honest, practical, science-backed answers about your kidney health, please hit that like button right now. It costs you nothing, and it tells YouTube to show this video to other seniors who are going through exactly what you are going through. We are on a mission to reach 100,000 subscribers so we can build the most trusted kidney health resource for Americans over 60 anywhere on the internet. And we cannot do that without you. And I want to hear from you directly. In the comments below, please share your most recent creatinine level and GFR, your age, and the city or state you are watching from. You will be amazed how global our community already is. We have viewers watching from all across the United States and beyond. Your numbers also help me understand what topics to prioritize in future videos, because your health is the reason this channel exists. So, drop that comment right now, subscribe if you have not already, and let's keep going, because number 3 is coming up, and it involves a milk that has been used in traditional medicine for centuries. Milk number 3, oat milk. Milk number 3 is oat milk, And I have to be very honest with you here, because oat milk has become enormously popular, and not everything you are hearing about it online is accurate when it comes to kidney disease specifically. I am going to give you the full picture, because that is what you deserve. First, what makes oat milk potentially beneficial for CKD patients? Oat milk contains beta-glucan, a type of soluble fiber that has been studied extensively for its effects on cholesterol and blood sugar. A meta-analysis published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that regular consumption of beta-glucan significantly reduced LDL cholesterol levels, and, as I explained with macadamia nut milk, managing cardiovascular risk is inseparable from managing kidney health in people over 60. Oat milk also has a naturally mild, creamy taste and texture that many of my patients find the most similar to conventional dairy milk, which makes it easier to sustain as a daily habit. Now here is where I need to slow down and be very specific with you, because this is the part of the oat milk conversation that almost nobody on YouTube is getting right. Oat milk is significantly higher in phosphorus than rice milk and macadamia nut milk. By itself, that elevated phosphorus content might be manageable depending on your stage of CKD and your current phosphorus levels. But there is a much more important issue, and it has to do with how oat milk is commercially manufactured. Most commercial oat milks, including many of the popular brands you see in your grocery store, add inorganic phosphate compounds as thickeners, stabilizers, or fortifiers. These show up on ingredient labels as things like tricalcium phosphate, disodium phosphate, or simply phosphate. As I mentioned earlier, inorganic phosphorus from additives is absorbed by the human body at a rate of nearly 90 to 100%, compared to the 40 to 60% absorption rate of naturally occurring organic phosphorus in food. This means that a cup of commercially fortified oat milk can deliver a much higher functional phosphorus load to your bloodstream, and therefore your kidneys, than you would expect just from looking at the total phosphorus on the nutrition label. A research letter in the Clinical Journal of the American Society of Nephrology specifically highlighted this problem, that phosphate additives in processed foods and beverages represent a hidden and significantly underappreciated source of phosphorus for CKD patients. Your nephrologist may have told you to limit phosphorus, but if the advice stopped there, without addressing additive phosphorus specifically, you may have been inadvertently consuming far more than intended. So what do I recommend? If you want to incorporate oat milk into your kidney-friendly diet, the rule is this: choose only certified additive-free, unsweetened oat milk, ideally one where the ingredient list is very short and contains no phosphate additives whatsoever. In some areas of the country, this may require shopping at health food stores or ordering online. And even then, limit yourself to no more than half a cup to 1 cup per day, and have your phosphorus levels monitored regularly by your care team. There is also the question of potassium. Oat milk contains moderate potassium, lower than dairy milk, but not as low as rice or macadamia nut milk. If your CKD is in stage 4 and your potassium levels are already running high, your nephrologist may advise you to avoid oat milk entirely and stick with one of the lower potassium options we have already discussed. For those of you in stage 3, with well-controlled potassium levels, and provided you find a clean, additive-free brand, oat milk, used in moderation, can be a reasonable and enjoyable part of your kidney care diet. The key word is moderation, and the key habit is label reading. Never trust the marketing on the front of the carton. Turn it over, read the ingredient list, and look for phosphate additives. If you see them, put it back on the shelf. Milk number 4. Unsweetened hemp milk. And now we have arrived at milk number 4. This is the one that generates the most conversation and sometimes the most skepticism when I bring it up with my patients. But I want you to set any preconceptions aside for a moment and just listen to the science, because what we know about hemp milk and kidney health is genuinely remarkable. We are talking about unsweetened hemp milk, made from hemp seeds, which come from the cannabis sativa plant. Before anyone worries, hemp milk contains no THC, no psychoactive compounds, and is completely legal across all 50 states. It has been commercially available in the United States for years and is stocked in most major grocery chains. The confusion between hemp and marijuana is understandable, but scientifically, they are not the same thing. Hemp seeds are a nutritional powerhouse with a composition that turns out to be extraordinarily well matched to the needs of aging kidneys. Let me explain what makes hemp milk so compelling from a nephrological standpoint. Hemp seeds contain an almost perfect ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids, approximately 3:1, which is very close to what nutritional researchers consider optimal for reducing systemic inflammation. This matters profoundly for CKD patients because chronic low-grade inflammation is not just a symptom of kidney disease, it is an active driver of kidney disease progression. Inflammatory cytokines damage glomerular tissue, contribute to proteinuria, that is the protein in your urine that shows up as foamy urine, and accelerate fibrosis, the scarring of kidney tissue that leads to irreversible functional loss. A 2020 review published in the journal Nutrients specifically examined the anti-inflammatory properties of hemp seed oil and its protein components, finding that several bioactive peptides in hemp protein demonstrated measurable kidney protective effects in laboratory and animal studies. The researchers noted that these peptides may help inhibit angiotensin-converting enzyme, the same enzyme that ACE inhibitor medications are designed to block in order to reduce blood pressure and protect the kidneys. Now, let me be very clear. Hemp milk is not a medication, and it is not a substitute for the ACE inhibitors or ARBs that many of you are prescribed. But the fact that its bioactive compounds appear to operate through a similar protective mechanism is scientifically significant and deserves far more attention than it currently receives. Here is another dimension of hemp milk that I find particularly relevant for seniors with nocturia and proteinuria. One of the reasons kidneys produce foamy urine and allow protein to leak through into the urine is that the filtration barrier, the glomerular basement membrane, becomes inflamed and permeable. Anything that reduces that inflammation has the potential to reduce proteinuria. I am not making the claim that hemp milk will cure proteinuria. I want to be very clear about that. But as part of a comprehensive dietary approach to managing CKD, incorporating anti-inflammatory foods and beverages, including hemp milk, is consistent with the best available evidence and with the dietary guidance published by the National Kidney Foundation. Now, what is the mineral profile of hemp milk? This is where it really shines for CKD patients. Unsweetened hemp milk is low in potassium and low in phosphorus. It does contain some naturally occurring phosphorus, but at levels that are significantly lower than dairy milk and comparable to or lower than most oat milk products. It is also higher in protein than rice milk or macadamia nut milk, approximately 3 grams per cup depending on the brand, which is something to be aware of if you are in stage 4 CKD and have been advised to follow a protein-restricted diet. In stage 3, that level of protein is generally not a concern. As always, your individual stage of disease and your most recent labs should guide how strictly you apply any specific dietary recommendation, and that conversation belongs between you and your nephrology team. The taste of hemp milk is distinctly earthy and slightly nutty. It is not for everyone. I will be honest with you about that. Some of my patients love it immediately. Others find it takes a little getting used to. I recommend blending it into a smoothie with frozen blueberries and a small amount of honey to start, which rounds out the flavor beautifully and gives you additional antioxidants that are well documented to be protective of kidney tissue. Blueberries, in particular, are rich in compounds called pterostilbene and anthocyanins, which a 2019 study in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry found to reduce oxidative damage in kidney cells. One practical note on purchasing hemp milk. Because it is less mainstream than almond or oat milk, it is worth buying from a reputable brand and, again, reading that ingredient label carefully. Choose unsweetened, with no added phosphate preservatives, and ideally fortified only with vitamins D and B12, which are common and beneficial additions. Avoid varieties with cane sugar, natural flavors that could contain hidden additives, or any phosphate compound in the ingredient list. Let me share something with you that I want you to carry with you beyond this video. The 4 milks we have talked about today: rice milk, macadamia nut milk, additive-free oat milk in moderation, and hemp milk, are not magic. I would never insult your intelligence by suggesting that what you drink is going to override genetics, disease progression, or the importance of your prescribed medications. But the cumulative effect of consistent, informed dietary choices is something that 25 years in nephrology has taught me to take seriously. I have seen patients manage their creatinine levels more effectively, maintain their GFR longer, and report meaningfully better quality of life. Fewer nighttime bathroom trips, less fatigue, clearer thinking, when they take their diet as seriously as they take their medications. A simple 7-day kidney care plan. Now, I promised you a 7-day kidney care plan, and I want to deliver on that promise in a way that is genuinely practical for seniors over 60. Not overwhelming, not unrealistic, but something you can actually start tomorrow morning. The first thing I want to say about this plan is that it is built on addition, not deprivation. One of the things I have learned from decades of working with patients is that telling someone what they cannot have without giving them something equally satisfying to replace it with never works in the long run. So this plan is about adding kidney-supportive habits and allowing those habits to naturally crowd out the less supportive ones. On day 1, your single task is this: go to your grocery store and purchase 1 carton of unsweetened rice milk and 1 carton of unsweetened hemp milk. That is it. Just acquire the ingredients. Do not make any other changes. Just have them in your refrigerator by the end of the day. On day 2, replace whatever you normally drink with your breakfast, whether that is dairy milk, juice, or a sweetened beverage, with 1 cup of unsweetened rice milk. That is your only change. Notice how you feel. Notice whether your digestion feels comfortable. Notice whether you miss the dairy as much as you thought you would. On day 3, continue with the rice milk at breakfast, and in the afternoon, try a small amount, half a cup, of hemp milk blended with frozen blueberries and a small amount of ice. This serves 2 purposes. It introduces you to the flavor of hemp milk in a format that most people enjoy, and it gives your body an early dose of the anti-inflammatory compounds we discussed. On day 4, I want you to take a look at the labels of everything in your refrigerator and pantry. Not to throw anything away, but simply to begin identifying how many products contain the word phosphate in their ingredient list. You may be surprised. This awareness is the foundation of informed kidney eating. On day 5, try macadamia nut milk in your morning coffee or tea if you are a coffee or tea drinker. Pay attention to the flavor. Many of my patients who do this never go back to dairy creamer. On day 6, use rice milk or hemp milk as the base for your morning oatmeal instead of water or dairy milk. Oatmeal made with rice milk has a naturally slightly sweet flavor without any added sugar. For those managing blood sugar as well as kidney disease, steel-cut oats with rice milk is one of the most kidney-friendly breakfasts you can prepare at home. On day 7, review how you feel. Have you noticed any change in your energy? Any change in how often you are waking up at night? Any change in the appearance of your urine? These are not scientific measurements, but they are legitimate observations worth paying attention to. And then, and this is important, write down what felt sustainable for you and what did not. Because the goal is not to follow a perfect plan for 7 days and then abandon it. The goal is to identify 2 or 3 changes that you can realistically maintain for the rest of your life. I also want to remind you of 3 common mistakes that I see CKD patients make when they try to shift to kidney-friendly milk alternatives. The first is choosing flavored or sweetened varieties, the vanilla oat milk, the chocolate hemp milk, which are often loaded with added sugar and sometimes with additional phosphate additives. Always choose plain and unsweetened. The second mistake is assuming that because something is plant-based, it is automatically kidney safe. As we discussed with oat milk, that is not true. Plant-based does not equal kidney-friendly. The ingredients tell you the truth, not the marketing. And the third mistake is drinking these milks in excessive quantities. Even the safest kidney-friendly milk alternative should be consumed in appropriate amounts, generally 1 to 2 cups per day, as part of a balanced, varied diet. More is not always better, and in kidney disease, restraint is often wisdom. Final takeaway. I want to close today with something that I find myself saying to patients in my clinic more and more as I have gotten further into this career. And I say it not because it sounds good, but because I genuinely believe it. You are not powerless. I know that a CKD diagnosis, or an elevated creatinine result, or watching your GFR drop over consecutive lab tests can feel like something is happening to you that you have no control over. And some aspects of kidney disease progression are genuinely beyond our control. Genetics, age, the damage that may already have been done by years of uncontrolled blood pressure or diabetes. I am not going to pretend otherwise, but what you put into your body every single day, the choices you make at the breakfast table, at the grocery store, in the small moments that seem insignificant but accumulate over months and years, those are firmly within your control. And the science tells us, clearly and consistently, that those choices matter. They do not matter as a substitute for medical care. They do not matter as a replacement for your medications or your regular lab monitoring or your relationship with your nephrologist. But they matter as a partner to all of those things. They are the part of your care that belongs entirely to you. The 4 milks we discussed today: rice milk for its extraordinary low mineral content and kidney gentleness, macadamia nut milk for its heart-protective, inflammation-lowering healthy fats, additive-free oat milk, used carefully and in moderation for its cholesterol-supporting beta-glucan, and hemp milk for its omega fatty acid profile and bioactive kidney-protective peptides, represent real, accessible, affordable, science-supported choices that you can begin making this week. Not because a YouTube video told you to, but because you now understand why. And understanding why is what makes any health change sustainable. Please, if you have not already, share this video with someone you love who is managing kidney disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, or any of the conditions we talked about today. Because the information in this video is the kind of information that can genuinely change how someone approaches their health. And in medicine, information shared at the right moment can change a life. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your most recent creatinine value and GFR number in the comments. Tell me your age and where you are watching from, city, state, or even country. Tell me what surprised you most from today's video. And if you have a question that you want me to address in a future video about kidney diet, about medications, about managing nocturia or proteinuria, about what your lab results actually mean, leave it in the comments. I read them. I take them seriously. And your questions shape the content of this channel. If this video helped you, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a like. Every single action you take helps this channel reach more seniors who are looking for exactly this kind of honest, experienced, practical guidance. We are building something real here, a community of informed, empowered kidney health advocates, and I am so grateful you are part of it. Take care of yourselves, stay consistent, and I will see you in the next video.